most definitely. I want to get more into the whole like Angela James tribute like on TSN. You know, like the first black Canadian like hockey player too, like first black female Canadian hockey player. I forgot to add that. So you know, you were actually doing like the commercial and the hosting for that. So how did you manage to get that placement, and what was that? What was that experience like for you being on a major like non-music platform to be the one to do the tribute?
Angela James, like you mentioned, she's an icon. She's a hockey icon, not just for women or for Canada, but like a hockey icon. So for me to be able to get that to get the opportunity to do that tribute, a good friend of mine who always used to rap, Kwame, hit me up and he was like, "Yo, Keish, do you do poetry?" And I was like, "Not really, when I was younger, but now I rap." He's like, "Okay, can you do poetry?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do it." He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna tell them that you can do poetry and that you do poetry." And I'm like, "Okay, who's they?" And he was like, "TSN." And I'm like, "Oh, whoa, okay." And he's like, "Yeah, give me a minute, I'll call you back." So he calls me back and he says, "Okay, so TSN's looking to do a tribute for Angela James for Black History Month, and I pitched you. They asked me who I thought would be a good fit, and I pitched you." Now he's one of like the biggest kind of people in hockey right now in Canada. He bridges a lot of gaps. He has a documentary and stuff like that about hockey in Canada. So just he had that connect and he thought of me, which I was always grateful for. Like you thought of me and I'm grateful you called me for this opportunity. So TSN connected with me and they said, "Listen, we need this piece for Angela James. We want like a spoken word segment over some, ambiance, and we're gonna put some clips in, and this is how it's gonna go." And I said, "Okay, cool. So what's the turnaround? Like maybe like a month or two. Like I can have this done in a month or two." They're like, "Okay, that's dope. I need it in 6 days." And I'm like finished? Or like we need it recorded in 6 days. And I was like, "Okay, I can do that too." So I just started jotting. I just started jotting that. My dad had a book about her. He had a book about her because he's a journalist. He always has books about everyone. So he had a book about her and just kind of some of the stuff that I knew, but also a couple more things I researched. And I was able to. I had to sit with myself and ask myself, what is the importance of telling this story? Because when you're telling a story about someone like that, you have to be really careful. Um, so I said, what message do I want to tell the world about Angela James? And when we talk about history, this person made history, and this person's historical, and this person's a legend. What does that look like? So that's why the piece is titled "What Does History Look Like?" And that's where I came up with the idea of. People ask me like, "Was that TSN's idea or yours?" I said, "It was mine. Everything I wrote everything." So, what does history look like? You know, it looks like this black girl from Flemington Park, and so that was the main course that I wanted to go with, and I built around that. And I came up with that piece within like a day or so. I wrote the piece in a day, recorded it 2 days later, and within a week we were filming. One of the coldest days on record. We're filming on ice at the Rink of Dreams. Shout out to Elise, Alex, the whole family, David, like such a dope family for letting us into their space at the Rink of Dreams and shooting there. So we shot that there, and a couple days later, it came out, and just to see how TSN put it together, it was just every time I watch it, I get emotional. It was an emotional piece. It was very, very honest, and it made a lot of people look in the mirror, especially within hockey, as we know that hockey has a lot of racism and things that they're still dealing with. So it made a lot of people look in the mirror, and it made a lot of young black girls see themselves and see that they can do what Angela James did. And then I remember Angela called me a couple days after that came out, and she was grateful, obviously, and we got to speak, and I was so overwhelmed that she liked it. She was happy about it. That was like the biggest thing. Like I want her to like this. So it was great. It was a great experience, and TSN was super nice to work with, very easy and very chill to work with. I was like something I'll never forget how chill they all were. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
It was like very like interesting, like from her being the same area as like you for a bit too, and just even like the whole like accolades as well too, in that sense. And I do feel like I want to add this like question to right now, because I think when we talk about like legends, a lot of people have like a different meaning on like when it comes to the whole perspective of a legend, and I feel like you're a legend in your own sense too, because you've done like so much that no other artist can do, or like no other artist could like ever experience in that sense too, even if it means that you're not as like big or like not as like well known as that person in that sense too. But like even like with these like accolades that we talked about, like the youngest female hip hop artist to have 3 songs in rotation at Flow and the Empire State Building situation, do you consider yourself like a legend when it comes to the history and like legacy of Toronto and Canadian hip hop and the rap scene?
Oh, that's such a loaded question. It's interesting because it's hard for me to feel that way, but I understand why that conversation happens and why there's articles that say that literally say legend in the making or call me legend and stuff. When we think of legend, we think of like older people, and I'm still in my 20s, so it's kind of like, how can I be a legend? But when I think of how long I've been doing this, I started this when I was 16. This all started for me at 16, so it's been it's been 13 years, right? So it's the stuff that I've been able to accomplish and the things that I've done. When I sit back and like look at them and I read the rap sheet, or other people read, every time I do shows and interviews and they read the bio, I'm sitting there like, dang, I did that. Like, it's like a shocking thing for me. I actually did that. The whole having 3 songs on Flow thing. I mean, even that, those things to me at the time, I didn't know. You don't know these things, right? It wasn't until I was told, we were submitting a song, the second song we were submitting, and they told us no, because at the time they only want one artist, 1 song per artist, kind of, obviously, unless you're a bigger name. And so then they put the Hollywood Fresh remix in rotation while the first one was just on its way out. And then when that song was on its way out, we had a song with myself and JB and bassline called Make It Look Easy that was executive produced by Preem, P Rain. So that was making its way into the airways. So it was like those 3 songs kind of playing, and it's interesting because it's interesting like that they had that dynamic that exists where they don't do that. So again, something like that to me is like a fluke. Like, that just doesn't happen, and I'm just kind of grateful for the opportunities for a lot of people who check for me and a lot of people who give me the leeway to do what I want to do as an artist. And I'm just grateful. I work hard, man. Like, I work hard. I'm at an age and a point now where it's like, you're doing this for so long, you get tired. It's exhausting almost, but there's just so much more music to put out. There's so much more stories to tell. So I'm kind of here. I'm sticking around.
And like it's even like solidified too in that sense. Like when I was, because like I think our first interaction like was like through IG. When I made this like list, for spring 2021, and this is like at the time you did your whole like Angela James tribute in that sense too. I felt like that was like something to highlight, because you don't see no other Toronto artists like doing that in that sense too. And I did kind of stop like I did kind of stop like making like these like lists right now because of the whole repetition of what's going on. But just like seeing that impact like even right now, like it's something to showcase in that sense too, even if you're not like releasing like music or doing anything else too. So
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, I want to get back into the whole like into the sorority situation. So I think I only have like this one question right now, but like looking back at that legendary cipher that you did on International like Women's Day, with Lex, with Vaya, with Phoenix, would you say that like the people who helped created that process, like with Team Backpack and 40 Ounce Heroes, who actually hosted like the video, played a pivotal part in establishing like that drive in forming the sorority in that sense?
Oh, of course. I'm very much for the artist and for the creative. In any aspect of art that you do, I'm for you, right? So there will never be a time where I'll take away an accolade from someone who has done anything. 40 Ounce Heroes. I was brought into the cipher by Riley Kirkwood, who does artist management, and just Riley wears so many hats. He's just one of the dopest people you'll ever meet. I was brought in by Riley, and I don't think Riley was part of 40 Ounce Heroes, but I do know that the other artists were brought in by different people in 40 Ounce Heroes at the time. And just 40 Ounce Heroes shooting that, we shot that at Post Office Sounds. Shout out to Chris and Evan, who are over there. That's just all of it worked together cohesively to make to put, we wouldn't have come together if it wasn't for the Team Backpack and all these kind of entities bringing us together. So we have to tip our hat to them, and I always do, and just shout out to them for having that vision and bringing us together. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. And you've noticed like that growth since too, even from those times, like with that cipher with Hollywood Fresh, and to now, like when, even before, like when you were working with T Minus at the age of like 15, 16, to, even now with these like 2 singles out right now, the Angela James tribute, like have you noticed that growth by any chance?
Yeah, one never actually worked directly with T Minus, but working in like with those kind of people in that circle, just to now, I mean, it equipped me for now. Like those early experiences equipped me to be able to handle my own now. I can read my own because I got ripped. I signed a bad. Well, my mom signed a bad contract on my behalf. Obviously, we didn't know too much about the industry when I was 16. I can read my own contracts now. I equipped myself with the knowledge to do everything that I want to do in this music industry. I went to school. I went to school and they taught us about managing our own tours. They taught us about managing our own merchandise, our own live shows, all those things to equip me to be able to do what I do independently. So it's just, everything drives the other thing. I think all of these things had to happen in my life for me to be able to sit here today. You know what I mean?
Most definitely. I just have some of these couple questions left over, but I want to talk because you've worked with like other people, like aside from Dougie Fresh and all that. So you worked with Geechi Suede of Camplo, Diamond D, like a well-known producer, and even with MIMS. And I know you talked about like MIMS, like Forbidden that since too. But how did you manage to work with Geechi Suede and like Diamond D, and what was like working with them like in terms of creating music and like learning from them?
So Suede, like one of my best friends. That's like Suede is like one of the coolest people you'll ever meet. He could be a headache, but he's one of the coolest people you'll ever meet. He's a compassionate and caring person. He's so talented. So Suede obviously is one of the 2 members of the legendary hip hop group Camp Lo. Camp Lo had one of my favorite albums of all time, which was called Uptown Saturday Night. One of my, it was one of the greatest albums in my opinion, hip hop albums, because of how ahead of its time it was, how fly it is. The album was just futuristic in my opinion. Ski Beats on the production. And so just to kind of get to know Suede over the years, just like Suede just kind of, we just kind of connected on social media, and from there we became cool, and we just used to hang out a lot and just make music and vibe and just listen to music and go back and forth with music opinions. And so it's ironic because even though we used to kind of vibe off of different records and verses and stuff, we never really made a song together. So it wasn't until this year where he gave me a verse for a record that I have coming out soon, and I did some background vocals for him on a record that he's putting out soon. So I thought it was really dope that we finally, I've known Suede for over 10 years, and we finally connected and got to do something together this year. So that's kind of how that came about. And Diamond D's like one of the dopest people you'll meet too. It's ironic how I met D. So D was on tour, Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop album, I believe. It was like the 25th anniversary, I want to say, of that album. They were on tour. And it was either 20 or 25th, one of the two. But they were on tour and they were at the Phoenix. He was at the Phoenix. And I remember DJ Mo Boogie calling me like, yo, let's go to the show. And I just flew in from New York because I was chilling. Camp Lo had an album release that they were doing some stuff there. So I was in New York with them. And I remember thinking like, I just flew in that night. And I was like, yo, I just don't feel like going anywhere. I just want to go home and sleep. And Mel was like, no, just come kick it with me. So I said, okay, cool. She said, yo, I got backstage pass too. So, we'll go back there and we'll kick it with them. And I said, all right, cool. So we get there, and there was supposed to be 3 backstage passes for me, myself, Mel, and one other person. But that other person brought someone and took my pass. So it's only Mel had a pass. So she's like, yo, my bad. I said, no, don't worry about it. It's cool. So I was in the crowd. I was kicking it. And then one of the opening act for that show was King Rain. And so King did his set, and then he came down after his set because he saw me in the crowd, and he came down and he slid something in my hand when he hugged me, and I opened my hand, it was a wristband to go backstage. So I went backstage, and then that's how I got to meet Diamond D. Him, myself, and Mel were kicking it, chopping it up, having a conversation. It was really dope. And And then from there, I took a picture with him and I posted it on my Facebook. And my cousin knew him. They grew up together in Brooklyn, and back in when my cousin lived in Brooklyn, and he was around the way in Bronx. So my cousin knew him, and my cousin tagged him in the picture and was like, "Yo, that's my little cuz." And so Diamond D ended up following me, and like, you know, we became friends on Facebook. And then like at that time I was dropping music, so he was like listening to some of the stuff I was dropping, and he was like, "Yo, your stuff is tight." And I was like, "I appreciate it." And he's like, "Yo, we gotta do some work together." And I said, "Yo, it's an honor." You know what I mean? It was an honor. So he ended up sending me a beat, and he said, "Listen, if you can, let's do something on this beat." And I said, "Okay, no problem." And he said, "I got this other dope female MC on this beat too." And I said, "That's what's up. It's cool. It's ironic that you said that because I was thinking of getting this girl on this record who's a friend of mine who's super dope." He's like, "Yeah, what's her name?" I said, "Lyric Jones." He said, "That's exactly who I got on this record." So I was like, wow, you know, this was so meant to be. So, you know, we did that record, and that was like 2017, 2016. I don't know when D's dropping the record. The record's done. It's out. We shot a video to it. Whenever D drops the record, you know, it's dope. But at the end of the day, just working with him was absolutely legendary, and he's just a pleasure. He's an absolute pleasure.
Most definitely, and you know, you gain these like wonderful experiences like with these people, like depending on the vibe, and like it's not even just like a studio vibe too. It's like, you know, going to their shows or just like meeting them like at an album release party too. So you kind of have like that interesting sense on like who they are as people, and versus like what the persona was like in the music and all that sense too. So it's interesting.
Exactly.
So with Toronto right now, I do feel like it's on a high note, like in terms of the impact of the music scene going on right now, with Rolling Loud coming up, with a lot of artists like dropping too. But how do you feel about the Toronto scene like right now? Do you feel like there should be some changes on the direction of the scene, of where the scene should go to, or you feel it's fine the way it is?
I think we need more structure as per usual, a little more business savvy people kind of helping push this thing, but I'm not mad about the way that Toronto is going right now. I think you know, I'm loving that a lot of our trap and drill artists and these young guys just telling their stories from their neighborhoods. I love the attention that they're getting. You know, they're getting these cult followings on social media and on the streaming and stuff. So it's really good. I would love to see their craft be refined as well. You know, I'm excited to see a lot of them on the Rolling Loud stage because a lot of them haven't even performed on big stages yet. So to see a lot of them get that opportunity is super heartwarming for me. I love that. You know, when they get exposure to those kind of things and they start to tour and do things like that, you know, open up their eyes to how big this thing could really be. So they're, you know, I'm just excited to see how it's going. There's a lot more ladies who are just killing it, absolutely killing it. And it makes me so proud to see, you know, a lot of these people are doing charts and stats, and I always just try to tell you, don't care about those things. Like, just don't worry. Don't let that get to you. Don't let that get you down. You know, if you're not number one on a chart or if you're not showing up on charts, it's okay. You know, that doesn't define what you're doing. It's just, you know, just keep working. My biggest thing is to everyone, keep working. Don't stop. Just keep, you love it, keep working.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And you know, like I do want to kind of like open up for a bit too. I can't hold it in for too long too, but I do feel like, you know, even with the charts and like lists too, I do feel like when I did it like at first too, like, you know, like last year, it was sort of like just like as an inspiration from Say Cheese and all that, just on like what the styling was and all that too. But I think once people got tired of the list, like because other people are making like lists now in that sense too, I feel like, you know, it's not really like structured on like how it is right now too, and it kind of took the fun out of that sense too. But even like it kind of made me reflect on, you know, everyone's like important in that sense too in terms of the music. Like I do feel like everyone's like sharing a story in that sense, and you know, their story might be different from others in that sense too. And you know, I think just like ranking it based off of like lyrics or with everything else too, like it kind of takes away the factor of like what their story is and what their impact is too. So I do, like as you said too, charts don't mean anything too, like lists don't mean anything too. It's like someone's opinion at the end of the day. It's like a streaming number at the end of the day too. Like whatever makes you happy and whatever like keeps you going in that sense too, just go with it, you know.
And that's the biggest thing. I mean, when you put out that list and everyone, oh, I didn't this. It's like this is his personal opinion. Like, you know, these are people who this is their opinion, and you made it really clear on what the criteria of the list was. And I just don't think, you know, that people should challenge people's kind of opinion. Like, that's your opinion, you know. So I just feel like there's too much focus on those kind of things, and people kind of base their worth on that. And if I could tell every artist, just don't base your worth on other people's opinion.
Exactly. So I kind of stopped for a reason too, you know, because I've seen other people like make their list too, and you know, them kind of like not caring, but like realizing that, you know, if you have a big platform that kind of causes like a lot of issues too, you know, you're gonna have to, you can't just like go with what you value in that first purpose on like caring, like showing love, and then making that list as one way or another and all that, you know. So you kind of have to like think about that too in that sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Just to end off the interview right now, so what's next for you in terms of any music, any creative projects, and so forth? And do you have any final words you'd like to say for any creative or any person out there pursuing their dreams?
Like I said, don't stop. That's the word I have for you. As far as any future upcoming projects, I have, you know, I have songs just dropping throughout the year. You know, you just expect more music from me. Like I said, I got a feature with Suede on the next record. That's gonna be really dope. Just more music coming, more music and more collaborations, and Lex and I have more songs dropping. So we're really excited about this particular time in our career and in our creative development. So stay tuned.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Keysha Freshh, you know, a legend in the, like, not even a legend in the making, just like a legend in general too. Thank you for coming by to TLOY to speak more on your story, to speak more on everything else too. It's like an honor and a privilege to have you on the platform too, to share your experiences, to share your knowledge too in that sense too. And you know, I wish nothing but the best for you in terms of your career and in terms of everything else too. You know.
Thank you, man.
All right. Until next time.